Hey guys! In today's lesson, we'll continue to make changes to the WooCommerce template files. Before starting the lesson, let's go to some changes I've already made here on the theme. So I tweaked the CSS on the shop page a little bit. Now we have this look here. As I've told you since the beginning of the course, I'm not going to spend the lessons showing everything I've done with CSS. That's why I leave all the source code of all the lessons available for you to copy. So just download the files, okay? You can access the folder related to this lesson here and copy the CSS with the new rules to your style.css file, okay? The code is super organized, but I would like just to briefly explain how I make the CSS changes. Let's suppose I want to change the background color of the pagination. I simply inspect the element. I make the changes directly in the style box. And currently all browsers have a tool that allows you to do this here. I can change the color directly here. I'm going to change the font color too. Okay, when I am satisfied with the changes, I copy all this here and put it here in my CSS file. Then I'll test it, adding more CSS properties. Here your creativity is in charge, okay? Everything you put here will override the WooCommerce rules. So there's usually no need to add important after all values, okay? That's what I did all over this page. And what I'm going to do on the other theme pages. Whenever I tell you that I made changes in CSS, you can copy everything from the style.css file, which will be updated every time. Well, in today's lesson, we'll move on to another template file. For now, we're going to leave the sidebar here without any changes, okay? And other elements will also be left for a later stage. Today, we're gonna mess with the template file responsible for presenting the product page. When we click on any product, we have this page. This page is displaying because of this file called singleproduct.php. This is what we're going to touch today. And this template file shares many action hooks with the previous file. So if you look at it, a lot of the things that would take us a while to do here are already changed. But using the second method I showed you, which uses the action hooks and filters, can become an advantage and a disadvantage too. And why is that? The benefit is that since the template files share several action hooks, which have the same name, you just need to make the change once and it will be valid for all the template files at once. Now, the downside is that you may not want to make the same changes to all the files. Let's give an example. I don't want this sidebar in the template file. I just want it to appear in the previous template. However, all the changes we made in the last lesson ended up affecting this page here as well. Do you remember that we removed the sidebar action from its original place and put it on another hook? That's right, this bar is here exactly because of the change we made in the last lesson. That's not good. We can verify this by enabling our hook plugin. And we see that the action for the sidebar is being executed here on the WooCommerce before main content hook as in the previous template. That is, if we undo the change we made, we'll end up undoing what we did in the last lesson as well. That's not what we want. We have to fix that. Now, how can I get rid of this sidebar without changing the look of the shop page, which we've already modified? Is there any way to set up an action only to be valid on a specific template page? Luckily, there is. For that, I will have to explain to you another WordPress concept called conditional tags. Conditional tags are simply for us to check, for example, which page we are seeing at the moment. but they also serve to check other things. For example, if such a piece of code refers to a specific category, or if you are on a page of a specific post. Anyway, there are several different tags. And I'll leave you a link for you in the extra material of this lesson so that you know all of them. Besides the native WordPress conditional tags, WooCommerce has also its own. I'll also leave the link where you can see them, okay? Usually they are called inside an if block and their return value is either true or false. Actually, when we use such tags, it's like we're asking a question for WordPress. For example, am I on a post page now? Is the page I'm seeing an error page? Does the page I see belong to a category X, Y, or Z? If the answer is true, WordPress will run the code within the if block. To be able to use these tags outside of a template file, for example, in the functions.php file, or in some file that is called by it, we have to make some modifications. We have to put all this stuff here into one function. Let's create the fancy lab wc modify function. Move all this stuff here into it. And we fire that function into a hook called WP. Let's start by doing a first check. Let's say that these modifications we made in sidebar, the repositioning we did, the divs we created for it, let's say that all of this here will only be valid for the shop page. The only thing we're going to keep out of this check is the removal of the sidebar from the hook where it's originally on. This has to be true for both templates, okay? WooCommerce has a special conditional tag that checks if you are on the store page. This tag is called isShop. We can use it like this. And we put this piece of code inside the block with this validation. In doing so, these changes here are only valid if isShop returns true. That will only happen on the main shop page. So let's see if it worked. Here on the product page, we don't have the sidebar. That's right. And on the shop page, it continues as it was before. Perfect. So apparently everything is correct. But if you go back to the product page, look, this whole area here still has 9 columns, but it should fill the whole space with 12 columns. So there are several ways to fix this. We could add a new class name here and create a rule for it, overriding the column rules like this. Or we could go back using conditional tags. This time we can use it here, like this. That is, if the page visited is the shop page, the div will display all of these classes. Otherwise, the width will be 100%, which we get by using this bootstrap class called col. Let's test that out. And it works perfectly. And on both pages. To finish off, we can also put this other action which adds the product excerpt, also inside the first conditional block. Thus, it will only show up if we are on the shop page, and the rest stays the same. Finally, some very important information. If your intention is to send the theme for redistribution somewhere, especially if this place is WordPress.org, you have to be aware of a very important rule. You can't create themes that are totally dependent on a plugin. In our example, we cannot create a theme that doesn't work without WooCommerce. So it has to work even if the theme user uninstall WooCommerce or just disable the plugin. To prove it to you, I'll do the following. I will disable WooCommerce and let's see what happens. So look at this. The theme doesn't work anymore. To avoid this, every time we have features that are unique to WooCommerce, we will perform a validation. It's pretty simple. We just type in here, if class exists WooCommerce. Now this file will only be loaded if we have WooCommerce active in the theme. You see? Now we have no more errors, even with WooCommerce disabled. Let's finish this lesson by creating the documentation for this file. Well, that's it for this lesson. I hope you're enjoying the explanation so far. In the next lesson, we will work a little more on the customization of our theme. So, until then.